statement. That God has to get them so uncomfortable and to the point where they're groaning and wanting something completely different, that they don't even look at what they have to do when they get there. It's just they want to go. You're right. But we'll get into that in the next part.
In Ezekiel, he says, I revealed myself to you, and I told you to throw away your idols and to worship me, but you didn't, so I had to make it uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
Paraphrasing him. But.
Absolutely. Why were the children of Israel not in the land at this point?
It wasn't their time. Because God said to Abraham, it was 400 years.
The Canaanites had not
Fulfilled
their evil.
Yeah, their evil hadn't been fulfilled. So God was giving, them the time to repent, but they didn't.
Okay. I'm going to throw in a spin on that. It's also because of the dirt. Right? So we know that he also says that you will be in exile so that the land can be restored. Right? Land's about to have 2 million more inhabitants. Need to be restored. With unmanageable numbers, the solution was to kill the next generation of power. Okay, because that's what men were seen as. I really didn't understand this. Because unmanageable numbers, the solution was to kill the next generation of power, but not the girls who actually give the birth. Can a man make a baby? Not by himself. Can a woman make a baby? Not by herself.
This still goes back to almost what I think it was Jim was talking about with Vietnam. Was as long as you have women and one man, you can repopulate. If you've got lots of men and one woman, you ain't gonna survive. It's not gonna make it.
Right.
You're not gonna be able to repopulate.
And it's
my point.
Right.
But that's my point.
Yeah, so that's why you gotta kill the men. No.
No. It just
But no, you're right, but it has more to do with power and...
It does, but it's all perception. Right. But I'm just making I just thought that was kind of an interesting thing. When the men who can fight. Really what it came down to. Because, Pharaoh was worried that they were going to rise up with some of their enemies. Right. And fight against them.
Right.
Which he obviously knew they'd been wiped out. Now, there's a lot to chapter 1 here, but I'm just kind of paraphrasing. Because here's the thing that I like about our study. I'm just going to throw this out there. I like the fact that we can all say something. Anybody in here been in church service? You can't say anything? I grew up in a church that you couldn't clap. Not kidding.
Don't get invited back.
What happened when you did?
Not only you don't get invited back, but if you're a kid, you get scolded. Publicly.
That's a no.
I'm just making the point though. I like the fact we can converse because, look, I've seen this 6 times. Shirley, how many times have you read through this? Whatever. No. I'm just making the point. Larry, how many times have you read through this? I don't know. Jim, how many times have you read through it this week? We're all making the point that everybody's going to see something a little bit different. And what I see is not exactly what you probably saw. And I hope it's not. Because that way I can glean a little insight from what you saw. That's what I'm interested in. So we're going to move on. But I did want to make the point that when he's telling the midwives, in 16, and he said, when you do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him, but if it be a daughter, then she shall live. Alright? Who in here has seen a birthing stool? A few of us, right? My wife gave birth on one twice. Okay? I know what that thing is. It hurts, it's heavy, it's bulky. especially when you get it thrown at you. But,
It was your fault.
well, it definitely was. But I'm making the point here, when you see them on their stools, this was a time of excitement. Who in here is giving birth? Giving birth. Okay? You're a mother. Okay? I'm making a point. How frightened are you at that very second before you give birth? Or hurt, or whatever. You're not in the motion of extreme elation yet, right? It's all that coming to it, right? I'm going off of what Randy's told me. I'm not giving you any firsthand here. Birth is a very exciting thing. And then some pain comes and we get yelled at. And then the excitement really happens because it's here. You don't have to do it anymore. It's that elation process. Pharaoh's asked these midwives to do something that I can't even claim. I can't even think about it. Like I said, my wife is giving birth on a birthing stool. I saw the baby come. I got to catch.
Awesome.
Amazing. Yet Pharaoh's asking me this very second, kill me. Oh, it irks me every time. I get sweaty when I think about it.
Moses had gone down to Ethiopia with a bunch of the Jews and they wiped out a ton because the Jews were afraid of him. So that had already happened too. So he knew they could become an army.
Absolutely.
So he'd already led them, but he's still in favor of Pharaoh.
Absolutely.
Before he left after killing the taskmaster. So he knew they could fight.
Let's go to chapter 2. Oh, yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to say that it's amazing to me that the most powerful man in the world, Pharaoh, isn't even named. But the names of the midwives
Oh, right.
that saved the baby
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
were more important to God than this famous Pharaoh.
Absolutely.
And it says there too that these two midwives feared God.
Right, and he rewarded them for their
Yes, sir.
Chase the rabbit for just a half second.
Let's chase it.
The shooting that was at the school
Mm-hmm.
killed how many young children?
20.
And do you have an idea how many unborn babies we kill each day that never get reported?
4,400 a day.
I was thinking about that.
That
So,
are re-
but that never makes the news.
No, that's
What?
hush nowadays.
So just something to think about. Excuse me for the rabbit. It was
No,
just kind of-
that's fine.
And when you were talking about you can't imagine, you know, when you're just waiting for that baby to drop and to be born and life, and that's.
I can imagine
that's
that part. I was there.
No, that's
the other
called-
part.
No, you said you couldn't imagine them killing it,
Mhm.
but that's what partial birth abortion is.
Sure.
Right
Okay.
before the baby's born,
Okay.
and how cruel is that? And
Yes, sir. Jim.
I find it interesting here, it says God blessed the midwives.
Right.
He didn't give them money,
Give them families.
a house,
he gave them families.
yes.
What's the last thing that everybody in a dying bed wishes they had? More money? No.
Family.
More time with family.
That's right.
It's pretty powerful.
Let's go to Moses' parents because it's speaking about the same issue. Okay? Because Moses is being hidden. Okay? So it says that, you go over and man and woman of the tribe of Levi, which first off I think is very ironic at this point. And the reason I think there's some irony here is because if we go back a few pages to Genesis 49, 5 through 6, let's just do that. Genesis 49, 5 and 6. Actually, we can go all the way down to through 7. Simeon and Levi are brethren. Instruments of cruelty are in their inhabitations. O my soul, come not that thou into thy secrets. Unto their assembly, mine honor, be not thine united. For in their anger they slew a man, and in their selfishness they digged out a wall. Cursed be their anger, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was cruel. I will divide them in Jacob, and scatter them in Israel. He's basically saying, oh, may I never be under your counsel. I think it's kind of interesting. Not making a real big point here. I just think that's kind of interesting considering what is the tribe of Levi a little bit later in the story?
The priest,
Uh-huh. Where did Moses come from?
believers.
Aaron, the son of Levi? The high priest? The most eloquent man with words, right? Yet his father Jacob, when he's on his deathbed, decides to tell all of them, okay guys, this is kind of what I feel. We see it as blessings, we see it as what it is. Because I don't think that Simeon and Levi thought this was much of a blessing.
But you know, I have to say that Jacob cursed their behavior, not them. And I've heard, as a teacher, and I'm sure other teachers have too, I've heard too many parents say, you know, you're a bad boy, or you're a terrible little girl, or you're stupid, or you're this.
Sure.
They curse the child instead of their behavior.
It says, cursed be their anger.
Yeah, behavior.
Yet he says in there, I mean, you read it from your translation, may I not be in your counsel. Okay? This isn't necessarily about the curse. This is that he's saying, I don't want your opinion to be what helps me dictate a decision. Okay? That's the point I'm trying to make here. No, dude, you're absolutely right. I mean, my mom's been a teacher for years, and she gets that all the time. She comes home crying, and I'm like, well, go tell him something. She's like, I can't do that. Maybe she can't, legally.
You can't legally.
My dad didn't care, and that's why it didn't work there anymore. I'm making the point, though, that he's saying, I don't want you to be a counselor to me. And now, is he speaking as Jacob, their father, or is he speaking as Israel, the birth of the nation?
Israel.
Leave him that alone. Okay. We see in that Moses' parents, we're going to hit them for a second, okay? Did you know Moses' parents, his mama was his daddy's aunt? Kind of a weird distinction. It's true. Moses' dad was his wife's nephew. That make sense?
In Arkansas.
In Arkansas. Maybe this is
Think
the...
about Abraham and Sarah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely. We're a few generations removed from that. There's a few more people out there at this point.
They had a more pure genetic pool.
See, I have an issue with that because that's what the monarchy thought, and then they created some not so smart people. Just making the point.
Thousands of years later.
I'm just making the point, though, here, that they are genetically close. Genetically very close. Okay? It was God's design, obviously. But this is in Exodus 6:20 is where that's found. And I just found that just an odd tidbit. You know, because I don't think about that unless you're talking about Arkansas. You know what I mean? That's not something we really deal with today. Jerry Springer deals with it a lot. We don't deal with that much here. Okay? So Moses is born. This is a time of turmoil. Pharaoh takes out of the midwife's hands and he's going, any male child should be thrown in the river. Right? And that's what he says. Women child should live. And so he's taken it out of the position where the midwives have anything to do with it. It's now it's a citywide amendment that if you see an ant, you step on it. That's the point he's making here. So Moses is born. His mom sees that he is a goodly child. That's what it says in mine. By the way, what else is called good in Scripture? Creation.
You know, I just, in 122 though, I don't know if this is my translation.
And the Lord, by the way.
It says, then Pharaoh commanded all his people, saying, every son who is born you are to cast into the Nile, and every daughter you are to live. So is he's talking about Egyptians as well as, well, I'm just saying, that's why I'm looking at translation. And it says, because the God, this is after, because the Hebrew women are not as vigorous, right? They explain it, so God was good to the midwives, and the midwives feared God. He established households for them, and then Pharaoh commanded all his people, saying, every son who is born, you are to cast into the Nile, and every daughter you are to keep alive. At least what I'm reading from that is, he's just, for a time, he's going, oh, listen, forget this, the Hebrews are vigorous and they do it before the midwife comes. Every son, every boy that's born, this guy's an idiot, really, he's a fanatic idiot. Every son that's born, throw him into the Nile. So we don't have to worry about whether they're Hebrew or not.
The only issue I have with that is that he has also a son.
But he's already been born.
Well,
Jim.
it says the king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
this
the
is
context.
this is
To read it.
Because
Yeah.
her daughter knew
That
it was
one
a
verse.
Hebrew child.
yeah,
She knew that. So it was a certain, it was, maybe they had.
right, and it
slaves
does
in their
point
house.
out that he was a Hebrew child.
Maybe they
Yes,
had
sir.
Hebrew slaves in their house.
This one says Pharaoh commanded all his people, every son born to the Hebrews shall
Okay.
cast into the Nile, and shall not allow
Okay,
every
so
daughter
they make
to
that distinction, okay.
And mine says that too, in the fine print at the bottom.
So
Yeah.
I get your point there, because I would get fed up too if you're like, well, I can't do it this way, I got to do it another way.
Yeah.
But it also makes the point that when he's talking about the firstborn son later, okay,
Mm-hmm.
sons in Egypt were a prized thing. Sons in all cultures
Yeah,
are a prized
pretty
thing.
much.
Not that daughters aren't, but understand
Yeah,
that.
pretty much.
Look at every other culture besides America. Are sons more important than daughters?
Yep. China.
That's right. Women are commodities, men are not. That's kind of how it is. Okay? Just look at it. So I'm making the point. That wouldn't be a flippant statement to say we're going to kill them all, because that was their lineage. Plus, he's also seen a numbers problem with these people got more than we got. We need to have more over here.
Yeah, it actually has a little note down there. It says some versions insert to the Hebrews.
So in the Hebrew, it has exactly what it says there, but you have to look at the context for it to make sense, because it's talking about the Israelites.
Okay, so let's move on. So he's hidden for 3 months. Okay? How hard is it to hide a baby that's a newborn?
It depends on the baby.
Very hard. We all, parents know that. It is very hard to hide a newborn. Very hard to hide a newborn. The rest of you know that too, because you've been around newborns. They don't cry when you want them to. They don't wet themselves when you want them to. They don't be hungry when you want them to be. It's not necessarily something you do. It's on their schedule, right? But Moses he's born, and he's hidden for 3 months. Now, we can also make the assumption that he was probably dressed up as a girl, because he was hidden. How do you hide a baby when one can live and the other one doesn't? Make sure they think he's the one that can.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Camouflage. No diaper changes. So, then it comes to the part where it makes it very clear that the woman conceived bare a son, and when she saw that he was a goodly child, she hid him 3 months. And when she could no longer hide him, gotta think though, that there's gotta be some more to that story, right? Why can't she hide him anymore?
Get suspicious.
Got a deep voice when he cries.
I like that. You know what? I'm with you on that one. Probably how it was. He already said he's not gonna be eloquent later, so there you go.
There you go.
There's more to that story though, you know what I mean?
It's time to get the ball rolling.
Yeah,
God's time.
you're right. And when she could no longer hide him, she took for him an ark. That's what mine says. What did y'all say? A basket, something made with reeds. And then it also brings up that she then dabbed it with slime and pitch.
Which goes back to Genesis 11:5. Just what the ark was covered with.
You're right, but actually I'm going back to the word pitch here. Just the word.
Clay and tar.
Because what is pitch in Scripture?
Kafer.
Kafer. What is kafer?
Black.
What is kafer in Torah?
Covering. It's not,
Mixture of.
It's a picture of atonement.
that's right.
Picture of a redeemer from alligator bait.
There you go.
What is it? I'm sorry.
Kafer, pitch in the Scripture is kafer in Hebrew. Kafer is a picture of atonement. Okay?
Kefer.
And
It's an
the
actual
same-
thing that you coat the wood so that it doesn't seep.
Alright.
Yes.
That kafer is the same root as kippur, like Yom Kippur, it means atonement.
Right. It's the picture of atonement.
But,
Absolutely.
I mean, it's the word atonement.
It's my point.
Just for fun, in the deal when he was saying it, he said bitumen, so when I get back, I'm gonna look that up. And
Yeah.
I don't know what bitumen is, man, it's still used. It's tar, or it's a tar wood,
Right.
or flat.
What is the ark a picture of? What is the little raft a picture of?
Salvation.
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 Yeshua.
He
So-
provided the cover.
God's life raft actually wasn't just the basket. For Moses, anyway. What was it? It's Pharaoh's daughter. Because who's the one woman in power, or who's the one woman in Egypt who could say, oh, look at this little one. He's a boy. I'm going to keep him.
His daughter, isn't it?
That's right. It's the king's daughter. She goes, she bats her eyes at Daddy and says, I want this puppy, which is what she probably saw it as. I mean, really. It's what she probably saw it as. I mean, she didn't have any children. It's cute.
Little girls have a whole different.
And it came to me.
Yeah.
This must be a sign from the gods.
It does not.
You know? So I'm just making a point.
There you go.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, remember when she found them in the water, one of the girls asked did she want them to go and get the mother
Yes.
to feed the baby? Did they know that it was her baby, or was this just a random woman that they went and got to
Right.
breastfeed this baby?
No, because it's,
It was
Be-
her mother.
it was Miriam.
Hold on. The question is, did they know that it was Mary? No, they didn't know it was Mary. The reason that this is interesting is because we've talked about a large increase. We're talking about over, and if you do the numbers the way that I did them, like I said, I'm not a mathematician, I didn't do it right anyway. I'm just saying, if you did 2 million people, which is just an assumption, guys, okay? So don't kill me for that. It's just an assumption, 2 million people. 2 million people divided by 400 years. But we know that they started off with 70, so that doesn't exactly work because that first year they would have had to have 5,000 births. So with 70 people, I'm sure that didn't happen. Okay? I mean, God works in mysterious ways, but I know He didn't work that mysterious.
This we had lots of twins and
Oh
triplets.
my goodness. Even then. So, because they weren't all women either. So, yes, ma'am.
Caleb was asking just a minute ago, he said, wouldn't Pharaoh have known that this was a Hebrew baby and wanted him dead?
Absolutely.
And the answer is that in the original Hebrew, it says that a princess, so it could have been any daughter
Oh, sure.
and the harem was off in a different part of the castle or palace, Pharaoh may never have seen Moses. He could have been raised in the palace without ever coming in the presence of Pharaoh.
Okay?
Which
But at
was
the
a
same
big
time, he
protection.
does know who Moses is. Because,
Eventually.
but there again, he knows who it is. And it's one of those things that I know you women think y'all are good at secrets, but secrets get back. And he's the most powerful man in Egypt.
Let's kind of go back as this baby is being found. It's roughly 3 months old
Uh-huh.
at this time. It's got to be cute. And to me, babies look like babies look like babies. I
Sure.
mean, there's, you know, little differences, but something made it to where she knew that it was a Hebrew baby.
Uh-huh.
Do we have any possible clue what that might have been since it was a
Big
boy?
nose, big nose.
Maybe the way they dress the baby.
Well, big
Didn't
nose.
it talk about a blanket, or is that the movie?
The basket it was in, the quilt, whatever.
He was circumcised,
He was
yeah.
circumcised.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay?
An Egyptian one wouldn't cruise a little baby in a basket in the Nile.
Yeah.
That's exactly it, he was circumcised.
Yeah,
So that's the point that I would like to bring
Sure.
out, because that's kind of told you.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely.
That's how,
Let me make a point. Does it say that he's circumcised?
It doesn't,
But why do we know he was circumcised?
it's a Hebrew.
Come on. Seriously, there's actual proof of this.
he wasn't circumcised later,
Keep going.
when,
You're getting to it.
Because his wife circumcised his sons.
Okay?
God was gonna kill him because he hadn't circumcised his son, but his wife saved him.
You're right.
Isn't
Why else?
Well, I bet you know.
I have an idea. The question is, why do we know that he was circumcised even though he doesn't say he was circumcised? It doesn't say.
Because he was a Hebrew?
He was a Hebrew.
Okay.
Because he's the priest.
Who are his parents?
Levites?
The priest.
Levi.
No, the priests were his parents.
But they weren't.
They weren't priests yet.
They weren't priests
Yeah.
yet.
Well, they were Levi.
But they- Levi's-
What does it say about his parents later?
Well, we all know,
Didn't it read something about saying, because I remember it saying something about the baby being circumcised and the sheep throwing it at someone's feet or something like
Yeah,
that?
we're getting to that. That's his son later.
Oh,
That's the fourth.
You're right. And that speaks to it.
well, we definitely know that from their lineage, they were concentrated on circumcision, because we know what Levi did.
Yep.
Levi and Simeon did. They were definitely focused on circumcision.
They were already doing it. It was a thing to do for their people.
Absolutely.
But like us having boys with short hair, clip them and clean them up. Or if the girls had long hair.
Wasn't that a covenant made with God? Well,
Absolutely.
they made a covenant with God.
That's also
Absolutely.
late, but that's also later. I mean, as far as the covenant.
But wasn't
That's
that
Abraham.
Circumcision comes before.
Genesis,
Yes.
I'm just making the point. Who are his parents?
Right.
Levi's?
the aunt and the nephew.
Jochebed.
Read up on his parents. So we'll keep going on.
What was your answer?
Just look into his parents. Moses' upbringing in the palace. Okay, let's look at Moses' upbringing. Okay? He's a Hebrew. You're very accurate that in the harem that probably had many wives and many daughters, may never seen the child. But would he have allowed a Hebrew child in there that wasn't at least looking Egyptian?
No. Maybe he looked Egyptian.
He didn't.
He couldn't.
But he was educated as.
He was educated as though. Now here's my point, is that this Hebrew child